Hello, Internet. We are back. Please excuse my voice if it's not right. I'm still struggling a little bit with a cold. It's not serious. Let's not worry about it. It's nonsense. We have Kevin Johnson with us again. We're going to talk about the sales unit. We are carrying on with our entrepreneurship series. Kevin, welcome. Thank you for what you're doing. A lot of people are going to benefit. For me, the sales unit is quite important. I mean, what does it help you to have knowledge or a good product and nobody wants to buy it? That to me is actually worse than having nothing to sell. But it's over to you. You can teach us.
Good. Well, there we go. Right. So very similar to the previous videos, it's important to establish every time when we do these videos, what type of person's actually coming to these various units. So what I want to do today is to do a little bit of an exercise. And imagine the following. So if I can ask you, when you were at the police college, who was your OC? Your commanding officer of the college? Was it Lesh?
Yes, I believe it was Lesh. Might have been a brigadier then.
Okay, so it was Lesh. Okay. And then the RSM, was it Anel?
That was Patrol Anel. The one and only, the one who's had you destroyed.
Right. So what I want you to do is to grab a piece of paper. Yeah. And basically, I want you to draw 1, 2, 3, 4. I want you to have a basement, not a basement, sorry. I want you to have a ground floor on that sheet. And then above it, I want you to have the 4 floors, the Euro unit, the leads unit, the sales unit, and the more sales unit. So basically, it looks something like that, quiz. You can check there. Yeah. So you've got 4 floors above the ground floor. 4 floors above the ground floor. Okay?
All right.
Okay. So this OC of yours and the RSM, they're coming to visit you. They're coming to visit your building. They know all about entrepreneurship. Okay? And what they also know, especially Petrolino, the RSM, he knows that Quirce's behavior in this building that belongs to Quirce and the business, he knows that you are the chief courageous officer. He also knows that you've got 8 freedoms and you're trying to expand it. And he also knows that if you've extended your lifespan by 10 years. Okay, so the OC and the RSM have now arrived. So down on the ground floor, just to remember, the ground floor is all about Quirce the person, because this is your firm. So basically, what they're going to be looking at on the ground floor, and they're going to give you feedback as you walk along. They're going to give you feedback because they know all this stuff. They practice it as well. So what they're going to be doing is they're going to be looking there at your extension lifespan, down there on the ground floor. They're going to go to your courage library. And especially Petroli now, he's really going to snuff. He's going to check everything out there. And then they're going to walk towards your health freedom. And on the way there, knowing Petroli now, as an ex-policeman myself, he's going to be looking you up and down before you go there into the health part. Yeah? And then the colonel is going to show an interest in your purpose. Then they're going to be looking at your freedom of time. specifically, he's going to be saying, you know, how many hours do you plan saving this quarter so that you can take those hours and do things where you're more courageous? He's going to be looking at that. And then you're going to organize a sit down and you're going to have some sandwiches and coffee, and they're going to give you feedback. Okay. So that'll last for a while. And then they basically would say, yeah, now we want to see the practical stuff. Can you take us now to your firm? And then they'll be going up to the first floor to the Euro unit. And you'd have to explain to them who it is that you've been a Euro to. And once again, Entrepreneurial would be saying, and tell me, Koos, what gives you the right to actually say you've been a Euro to them? And quite frankly, knowing the type of person he is, he's going to rap you on the knuckles if you're talking nonsense, not so? Okay, so then they're going to give you feedback there, because bear in mind, they eat and sleep the stuff as well. Then they're going to go up to the leads unit, and they're going to be saying, okay, now this group that you want to be a Euro to, let me see the compelling stuff that you've actually put together to get them excited. And more important of all, let me see your routes to market. Because if you don't have routes to market, your compelling stuff that you've put together is just all theory. And then they want to look at the system that you've put in place so that when these volumes of inquiries come in, that it's actually been all controlled correctly. Because what they're wanting to see is that you've actually got a system in your business and that the business is not here. And then they're going to say, right, let's move to the next level. And so let's kick off now, Koos, with exposing you to the next level. Okay, so as you rightly said, it's all about the sales unit. So what I'd like you to do is just maybe spend 2 or 3 minutes and think of how you answered those 2 gentlemen down on the ground floor. The first floor being the Euro unit, the second floor being the leads unit. How did you answer them when they asked you questions, and what was their assessment of you, the Chief Courageous Officer? So if you can maybe just digest that for a couple of minutes.
Okay, I made some notes here, which I hope they will be happy with.
Okay. Do you wish to share any of the stuff that went on between you and Entrepreneurial?
Well, he's a man who is hard to forget, isn't he? I think there are probably hundreds of thousands of policemen listening here who knows exactly what we're talking about. But right, let's start at the Euro unit. Who do you want to be a Euro to? Would be the servicemen. And by them, we don't differentiate. Whether you served in the army or police or Air Force, Navy, medical corps, we don't care. As long as you wear uniform, we would like to assist there. And then the reason why, for me, thought about it long and hard, why. And it's fascinating because the police and army didn't like each other that much. I wouldn't call it hatred, but we were definitely a esprit de corps. But for me, the reasons which I wrote down, it had to do with history. I felt very strongly that the history should be preserved. Because if you have a false history somewhere, you're bound to make the same mistakes. And therefore you need a history which is accurate and which people can judge. And that would be why. And I think they deserve it. If you put all things together, I think these men and women were not treated all that well. And so that's what comes down to here. And then it leads, when it comes to compelling stuff, we need to do the best videos we can. It needs to be interesting, and to be interesting, there need to be a personal touch. We don't want to do the usual. I'm sure that there will be people who can do a fantastic Hollywood type of production. And there's a lot of them out. But when you speak to somebody from the heart, that's always, for me anyway, better. And then the route to the market, because remember, we're talking about legacy here. There are several actually. Partners, where we're doing here is definitely a route. Legacy books, definitely a route. Videos are a route. But it all comes down to breakout rooms and what spins off it. That's where the markets are lying. And then the system. The system is to use technology as far as you can. It's a very wide concept, but it comes down to reaching out, getting people involved, and identifying the who's, and then just doing your best in the background just to accommodate everybody and keep the quality up. Because we're also learning as we go along. And thus far, I can tell you we're not that impressed because we haven't seen the results yet. And that's the story.
Good. Okay. So if we can now move on to the sales unit, the stuff I'm going to share with you today is not limited to what I'm going to share with you now. There's some more stuff on the PDF below. Okay, but the stuff I'm going to share with you now is on that PDF as well. So in my organization, when we come to the sales unit, we've got a definition that we measure ourselves against. And the definition, which is on the PDF below, is that we continuously make specific offers to prospects as they become ready, with us leading the whole way in the conversation. So we are a firm believer that people buy when they're ready to buy. So we nurture them, educate them, motivate them till they're ready. And then when they're ready and they put up their hands, in our case, it means they go to the calendar and they book themselves in for a 30-minute meeting. Okay, it means they come in there ready, pre-motivated, predisposed, and fully knowledgeable about what our offering's all about, because we've been basically educating them. Okay, so that's the first thing in the sales unit. The second thing is that we believe behind every sale is a person. And for that reason, we treat them exactly like that. They are a person. It's not a sale. What we also do in our firm is we sell on purpose. and it takes a lot of the stress out of the selling. Because what we do is we help people to get the good feeling they want about what they bought and about themselves as quick as possible. So we keep fine-tuning how we can get them as quick as possible to get that feel. And if we identify that it's not happening, we apply the 80-20 principle and we nicely bring that conversation to an end. Fortunately for us, we don't have many of those, because by the time that they come into our world, we've already filtered out the ones that are not for us. Okay, so that process makes it easy for someone to say yes, because they never feel when they have that 30 minutes with us. And in our case, we sell software, but it's a wasted 30 minutes. And from our side, that sort of process makes it easy for the client to say yes. Okay, so have you got any questions on that before we move to the two main objectives that we have in the sales unit?
While you were talking, Kevin, I was wondering, does reputation play a role if you have a good name in your field?
Yes, you will see that when we get to the more sales unit, we've got two objectives there. And the one objective is to orchestrate referrals. So we've got a system that proactively orchestrates, and measuring that success there tells us what people think of us out there. Because no reputation, no referrals. High referrals means that we're doing something right for our client base. Does it answer the question?
Yes, thank you. I fully understand the flow between the two. People do talk to each other.
Absolutely. There's some data actually out there. I don't know the exact numbers, but if you do something good for the client, they tell X. But if they have a bad experience with you, they tell X plus more people. So basically, you are on a hiding second to none if you're shoddy.
Comes back to standards, honesty, integrity.
Yeah. Now, in your case, it's been a good thing that you've cracked, two nice units already, being 3-2 and the reconnaissance. But if you cock up there, and that message gets out from organizations with a reputation, well, when you go knocking on some of the other less known associations, they're going to turn around and say no. Right. Okay. So the first one that we look at, and there's two of them that we'll cover now this afternoon. The first one is the core objective. And these questions I'm going to now give you, those questions and more are on that one sheet below. Because obviously we're going through it now, only spending X amount of time. But what I want to do is make sure that when you go away, you play a proper rev game or two. And what I mean by rev game, just to recap again, is basically 40 minutes, 20 minutes, 40 minutes. So you could be doing it on your Euro unit, your leads unit, your money unit, your more sales unit. Okay. So the core objective, what you're going to be asking yourself there is, what is the result that your client is actually buying? What is the result your client is buying? Now, in your case, even though those who are coming onto the show don't pay, you're still going to treat them like a client. okay? When you're dealing with the associations that they belong to, even though they're not paying, they still got to be treated as a client, unless they get you to do special projects for them. That's a different story, okay? And then that question also needs to be asked when you ask the paying clients to come into the breakout rooms. The question is applicable to all of them. What is the result your client is buying? Okay, so that's the core objective. There's another 1, 2, 3, 4 questions to be answered, and they go in logical order, but it's enough for today just to get that. And then those listeners, you just click on the PDF when you're listening to this video. Okay, then we go to the strategic objective. So the first one was the core objective. And the strategic objective, one of the questions is, how do you ensure that every client gets the result they want? How do you ensure that every client gets the result that they want? So without a system in place on your sales floor, you will not be able to achieve that. So all your salespeople working in your sales department must know they work according to a system and not how they feel on a particular day. Otherwise, your inconsistency will be massive. And in the strategic objective, there's about 5 questions on the PDF below. But one of the other ones that you have in the strategic objective in the sales unit is, what can you do for your new clients that is unexpected, relevant, and somewhat personalized? Okay, so because we're limited with the type of time that we have with these videos, I've taken 1 or 2 questions in the beginning, the middle, and the end, but the other questions that fit in the beginning, the middle, and the end will get you to have a much better understanding of how we go about it in our sales unit. So practically, I'll share with you how we do it. And these 4 units are not going to go away. We're going to be talking about it mid-quarter. We're going to be talking about it at the beginning of every quarter. Into the future, we'll have guests on where they'll ask me questions about their business, and I will then obviously, give them my advice, etc. So these units are absolutely timeless, and we revisit them over and over and over again. It's not a one-off. So you become very good at it. It's almost like hitting a contact. Okay, the first time around, you might be all over the place in your head. And then obviously, as you're exposed to more contacts, you settle down a little bit. So there we go. Any questions, Quiz? Before I share with you how we do it in the sales unit?
I remember when we began, and I might be wrong, you told me you were holding the functions or something, and you would know exactly what the guy drinks. And he would arrive and would be greeted, and he'd talk about his rugby team. And his, you want to have a beer shandy or whiskey, or knew all those things. And then made it. Is that part of this, Kevin?
Yes, I would say that, those things that I was taught by my only manager I ever had, because I went self-employed pretty quick in life. He taught me that, where he said, when they come into the socials at Westbank, they got to go away there saying, wow, what a personalized experience we've received. So it's very much. I pulled stuff from 3-2. I pulled stuff from the bank, and then obviously my 2 companies to bring it to where I am now. It makes no difference, what industry you're in. Unless obviously you're in a high commoditized world, then some of these principles won't apply. And also if you're in a real high volume sort of industry, then some of these principles, I say some, won't apply. But for what you do in here, and for what most people do, whether you're a psychologist, a coach, whether you're running an accounting firm, whether you're a lawyer, whether you're running an engineering firm, you can use this. I mean, if I had to go back hypothetically into the military tomorrow, specifically, like infantry, I would use a lot of these principles as well. Right, so any questions before I share with you some practical examples? Okay, so basically with us, we're very clear in our business who we want to be a hero to. That's high-performing coaches. Okay, so that's our hero unit. And then the lead unit, we know exactly where to go and find them. We go and find them by using these advanced filtering systems on the Sales Navigator, which is the paid version of LinkedIn. And that's how we get them coming our way. So we warm them up a hell of a lot on LinkedIn. And then the funnel that they come via is our quiz assessment. So basically, they would answer about 8 or 9 questions themselves, wherever they are, without our involvement. And then they would get a report back immediately, giving them views, recommendations, etc., on how they answered the questions. And then we've got a process in place where we keep educating and warming them up till they click on the calendar and they come then through for a 30-minute. So when they come through for that 30-minute, we already know how they've answered 8 questions. So that's telling us a hell of a lot about where they are and where they'd like to be. So basically all we're having to do is get them into the meeting, meet and greet them. And then what we do is we go over some bigger future questions, which we will cover in the Freedom Through Relationship after we've done this Freedom Through Money in 2 weeks' time. And there, what we're doing is we're establishing what their bigger future looks like, because we don't like working with people that don't have a bigger future. And believe it or not, there's some people that have no idea about their future. So, we then know those are people that it's not worth working with because they're hard to work with and you end up being their bloody psychologist because you're having to motivate them to use the software properly. We're not actually in that business. We want people to come into our world where they've already got those batteries included to motivate themselves. Okay, so they come in there. We've got a couple of questions that we actually ask them. And then based on the answers that they give us around those questions, they're very intellectual and emotional questions. And as I said, we'll cover that in the freedom through relationship. And then together with the questions that they've already answered, we are able, within 10 minutes, to immediately demonstrate value. So in other words, even if they don't go with us, when they leave that meeting, they'll go, well, I'm much better than where I was when I came into the meeting. And that hasn't come by sort of luck or by coincidence. It's because we believe in warming people up before they come into the sales unit. Because the better you are in your leads unit, with your educating and your motivating, okay, the easier it becomes to close the sale. So, those who are familiar in the military, you train hard in the leads unit. When you're in the sales unit, you fight easy. So we demonstrate value immediately in that 30 minutes. And in many cases, we actually get the yes straight away. Some cases we don't. But a proposal will be put together. To the client, it looks very, very personalized, but for us, it's generic because we've got most of the info on the client already. And that's how we do it. So what we basically then also do in the strategic objective is when that person says yes and they pay, we pretty soon after that do something for them that's personalized, relevant, and unexpected. So once we've received the check worth, that's when we kick in with the strategic objective that you'll see on the PDF of doing something relevant, unexpected, and somewhat personalized. And many people over the years have asked me, why don't you just do that before you get the yes? And there's a psychological reason. We do it on purpose because if you give it to the client before they say yes and part with the check, then the client thinks we're doing it because we want in their check. But if you do it after you've received their money, they go, oh, this looks good. This journey starting off positively. And so we immediately in the sale are already setting ourselves up to do good in what we're going to cover next week, which is the more sales unit. And if we don't do all these good things, we don't do all these good things in the sales unit, then the more sales unit people will pick it up. And they'll let the sales unit know in no uncertain terms that, you haven't been doing your job properly. So it's a process, it's a plan. And we just, keep fine-tuning it, and we're persistent in staying inside the system. So, my people know, okay, you're either in the system or it's not in the business. So this stuff about parts of our business is sitting in your head, but it's nowhere else. We can't see it in the CRM. We can't see it. Yeah, that's just an absolute no-go. So that's basically a process that we've got. And obviously, as I said, in the quarters to come, we will just be going more and more into this unit, and I'll be sharing more and more with you. Just like your one will evolve as you go and do your rev games on your sales unit. You'll see more and more breakthroughs coming through for yourself. So no hard selling, because we sell on purpose. Namely, we help people to get the good feeling about what they bought, which is our software, and that they feel good about themselves for making the decision. It's an 80-20 principle. We don't sell to just anyone.
Yeah, that
Right.
makes a lot of sense. I mean, also, even if you offer somebody something nice before the deal, can be seen as a bribe, you know. And some people might revolt away from it, but then you lose respect, even if it was done with the best of intention. So this idea of rewarding afterwards, really a good idea. But does that fit into this sales unit?
Sorry, can I just mention something there? I think I did mention it before about giving something away up front. Now, we had hundreds of business managers sitting on dealership floors, you know, with finance and insurance products. They were business managers sort of sweeping behind all the salespeople. There, we never, ever discounted anything. However, okay, the salespeople selling the cars, you know, if there was an old model now coming off the market and the manufacturer had surplus stock, then obviously with the launch of the new stuff, they would discount the old out of the system because it's very capital intensive. So in some cases, you would be having to give it away up front. In our case, we sell software. Okay, there's no reason for us to ever discount. So my attitude's quite simple. There is no reason to give a discount. So if we do start discounting, it means just around the corner, there's another discount waiting.
Well, that makes absolute sense. I mean, you can't discount. I mean, discounting too much, then people think it's not good enough. It's a silly thing in your brain. People think they're more expensive. I mean, is a Rolls Royce really that much better than a Volkswagen? It's the same function.
Yeah, and I mean, there are, you know, there's in many cases where people are underselling themselves, and I'm sure that I know that if a product is not as good as what it should be, and that you have the ability to make it better, you might be caught in the trap of discounting because you don't believe in it. Also, if you're not working with your salespeople to keep them improving how to sell on purpose, you might actually find that due to the fact that you haven't given them a proper sales process, they'll be wanting to discount it. Now, I know, for example, here in the UK, there's an accessory that the business managers sell on the floor. They sell it in South Africa as well. It's called paint protector. So it actually protects the paint of the car, Scotch guarding of the seats or the leather of the seats, and then protects the tires and the rims and anyhow. So basically, they're selling that in huge volumes on floors like the Ford dealerships, the General Motors, the Toyotas. And this is now many years ago. So now they decide, and this manager, this woman tells me, she was actually quite shocked. She went into a Ferrari dealership because they were part of this big group and said, look, I've come from your head office. They said I must come and show you the product. And the guy said, yeah, no problem at all. We'll sell it here on the Ferraris. And let's say the price was 395 quid that they were selling it for in the group. So she said, well, it's 395. That's what we do. And then she watched the performance and was going nowhere in a hurry. And the sales guys were going to get, 100 quid for each sale. So they were quite excited about it. And then she spoke to someone, and this person said, no, you've got to understand, it's a Ferrari person. We know that this is a very good payment or paint shield. Did I say payment? Paint shield, sorry, not payment. This is a very good paint shield protector. Your problem is it's Ferrari clients. When they see 495 going onto the paint of their Ferrari, they get a bit worried. So she said, well, what do you suggest to do? He said, well, what you're going to do is you've got to sell it for 1,495. So she moved it from 495 to 1,495. And that sat okay with a Ferrari buyer. And I thought to myself, wow, I wonder how many other people out there are making the same mistake. But I must also just say, I was in an e-commerce business, okay? And in some lines where it is commoditized products, like products that we were selling on the internet, oh, that's very price sensitive. So I just want to say to the audience out there, what we're sharing is applicable to all people, except some of the stuff that I'm sharing will not be applicable in your business. So even this stuff that I'm sharing here, some of this I couldn't use in my e-commerce business, but the stuff that I could share in my e-commerce business made that a business that we could sell.
There used to be this old joke with lawyers, and there are two versions, of one of which is certainly true. Now, in law, everything is about money, Kevin. There's no such thing as helping people. You lose those stars in your eyes very quickly. And so what happens is, this is the joke, is you will walk out with a client to his car, and depending on his car's newness and size and model, that is how you're going to charge him. So my advice is go to your lawyer with quite a beat up old Beetle or something, that will help you. But then you go to the client as the lawyer, you better be driving the 7 Series and not an old one either, unless it's armored. We have a good excuse, or a 4x4, whatever. It's nonsense. I mean, it shouldn't be like that, but that's real life.
Yes. No, I agree with you there. Yeah. I do sometimes think that is this world actually been designed by lawyers, because, wow, there's just so much stuff out there that's ambiguous. It's like I said to, when we sold the shares and the agreement was put together, oh, look, you can look through this shareholders agreement, Westbank says to me. I said, wow, this thing is like 100 odd pages. Oh, yeah, no, it's very good. It covers everything. I said to myself, I'm not going to read all of it. I said, can you do me a favor? If you were in my shoes, I said to this lawyer, if you were in my shoes, you give me the 10 things. I don't want it now. You give me the 10 things that you'd be looking for. Why do you ask that? I said, no, it's very simple why I'm asking it. If you were in my shoes, what are the 10 things you would be looking for? And then I went home and I wrote down 10 things that I wanted to see in that agreement. So I waited for him to show his hand, and fair play to him, he did think like on my behalf. And then I gave him the 10. Well, then I had peace of mind that on the most important things I'd been covered. And then I met a guy in private equity that said to me, sometimes I feel like I should be a lawyer. He's a chartered accountant background. I said, why do you say that? He said, well, he said, it's not what you read, Kevin. It's what's between the lines. Now, these people in the legal industry, they know fools. That's all I want to say. They know fools. It's like in the insurance world. You know, before we became an insurer or a partner with an insurer, you know, we would buy our products from an insurer and then sell it out over the internet. And I came up with the idea, and she was very good at it. I said, look here, this thing is 10, 11 pages. This is just for a simple product. I said, what I'd like you to do is to cut this back by half. And then we put pressure on the insurer to give us the terms and conditions that protects them as an insurer. But then to our clients, it's like half the amount of terms and conditions, and get it in plain English, simple English. So it can be done.
Well, you know, there's in South Africa even a law out which says it's got to be in plain English. There's all sorts of tricks which they use. I've used all of it, invented a few myself. But now you've got to be careful. The best advice is never ever sign something you don't understand.
Exactly.
Because not everybody is honorable. And I'm not saying that of lawyers, I'm saying it about everybody. Not everybody is your friend.
Exactly. Right. So the normal questions, did you get some clarity today on your first attempt in your sales unit?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Then did you feel that you got some more confidence about your sales unit?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. And then did you come away with some new capability?
Absolutely, yes. Thank you.
Okay. Right. So what I want to show you quickly here is you can see up here again. So here I've got the bolding example we went through. And on that side, you can see that grid. Yeah. The rev game. Okay. So I can give you no guarantee that you can grow an ambitious business by just going through these exercises that we've been doing from time to time. If you want to grow an ambitious business, you've got to have some form of grid where you're measuring yourself by the number of games you play when you're in your building. And when we say building, we're talking about the ground floor, the first, second, third, and fourth floor of these freedoms. So you can get results out of it, but if you want to get ambitious results, you've got to go and play enough games. For one simple reason, when playing the games, that is where the rubber hits the road. And I want to stress that to people, that even though you're getting this all for free, if there was a guarantee on this tin of 8 freedoms, the guarantee would have to say, if you cannot show me that you're putting in enough game time, there's no guarantee. I'm talking now about wanting to achieve ambitious results. So I must just stress that. Okay, so having said that, I say to the audience that are listening again, you know, we are not charging you. And so therefore, if you are getting value, the clarity, the confidence and new capability out of these videos, you know, Down there, just below the PDFs of the video, okay, is my unit's Veterans Association. And certainly in these difficult times, you know, any bit of money is good money. So there we go, Chris.
You know what's the nice thing about your games, Kevin? I played a few. They bring clarity.
Yes.
The more you play it, the more clear it becomes. It's almost like you can see the future. It will sound stupid, but it's almost like that.
Yes. And, you know, also when you're playing the games, you know, if you look at, let's say 40 minutes, 10 minutes, 40 minutes to those who are in other countries that don't resonate or understand rugby union, see it as a game, for example, of football. You know, you can be playing a Sunday game, Sunday morning with a hangover, or you could be approaching the game like Cristiano Ronaldo approaches the game. You know, if you look at his ground floor of how he's approaching his game, you will see, you know, that guy puts a lot of effort in. And sadly, in a world that we live today, where it's like a me in many cases, you know, the people who criticize say, yeah, he's just gifted. But they don't realize, they give him no credit or respect for the amount of effort that young man puts in. I mean, to be doing what he's doing, and he's already hitting 37, that's not come about just because of genetically how he was born. That guy's playing serious amount of games before match day. One thing I will also say is that, in conclusion, if you look down on your ground floor and you do an X and Y little graph, commitment on the X, Y, the courage, and you get to the top right-hand corner where you're showing high levels of commitment and high levels of courage, and you take that person into the games, you find that you can grow a very lucrative business, and you don't have to do as many games versus, you know, just going through your days in a normal way. And I think you summed it up beautifully there, where you said the game brings absolute clarity to what you're having to achieve. Another great thing about the games is that it's amazing how you take your innovation to the next level through the focusing. And, you know, there's been a lot of white papers written in the medical world of, you know, when you take your awareness and your attention and you move over to focusing and concentrating, and the game gives you this opportunity, you then get into the zone. And when you get into the zone, you know, some people call it getting into flow. You'll be then surprised, you know, how the creativity and innovation juices start to kick in. So there we go.
I have a question, if you don't mind.
No, fine.
Sometimes when you run a business, it's possible to feel overwhelmed, especially when you start off. And you don't know, I'm not talking practical now, I'm talking in your brain.
Yes.
Because your view isn't clear. And then you just muddy through, something like that. You just go through it, but you're going nowhere, in fact. And what I found is if you then play the game and you get your clarity back, it's like you're not overwhelmed anymore.
Yes, yes, because the game actually provides you with the rules to understand that, hey, I'm all over the place. When I promised myself on the ground floor, when I did my grow, that I have a goal, I have a result, and I'm going into the sales unit, you'll know very quickly whether you're actually playing the game, because it's not just any game. You're playing the game according to what your grow asked you down on the ground floor. So once you get into that sort of momentum and routine, then you discover, oh, I'm getting more into flow. And normally when you're in flow, there's far less stress. There's low levels, in actual fact, no levels of anxiety because you're in flow. And someone taught me something where he said, because flow is like the last part, and you don't always get into flow. But let's say you get to the part where you're concentrating and you're focusing. And someone said, don't try hard to focus, but instead what you do, and this is really, in my mind, profound, what you do is that when those thoughts and feelings come into your mind when you're playing the game, accept them and just let them go. Which means you get better at being back into focus. Rather than saying, got to focus, got to focus, got to focus. Let me tell you, those thoughts and feelings will come and will play havoc with you. So all you do when you're in the game, you just focus because you know what your grow has told you to do. You've got a goal, you've got a result. You know it's 40 minutes, rest 20, 40 minutes. You can play 45 if you want to. And then when you're there, when those thoughts and feelings come, you go, thought, feeling, let it go. Because the turmoil is actually letting yourself run with those thoughts and feelings. That's when it starts to get out of control. And then you start realizing, oh, this is working for me. And then all of a sudden you play a particular game and it feels like none of the stuff is working. But that's also okay, because what you will then discover is that you get back on the horse quickly again and you go, well, there we go, it's working for me. And I'm pretty sure that a guy like France would be able to add some more dimensions to this. But the part I've shared with you, of course, is the part that works for me. So how do I make sure that I'm at my best in the games? I also do certain things on the ground floor, which is my health, for example. So I do make sure that I'm getting enough sleep. And I do, in my health video, you'll see it there in the PDF, I do meditation every morning for 20 minutes, doing exactly what I've just shared with you, which is sitting there for 20 minutes, focusing on the breathing. And when the thoughts come and the feelings come, letting it, accepting it and letting it go, accepting and letting go. And then I get back to the breathing.
You ever write a book, Kevin? You know what we'll call it? Mr. Flow. Because you somehow kept yourself in that flow, in that zone. And that's where you're happy. And a lot of people get out of a flow and the zone. They miss out because they've allowed these distractions getting hold of them. My opinion,
Yes.
I'm like France, I don't know.
No, you're right there. Obviously, you've got big dramatic things in life, it can throw things upside down a little bit, but this is still the best approach to take, even when things are very, very dramatic. And that is thoughts and feelings, images coming into your mind. Just identify them as a thought, feeling, image. So it's okay, let it go. You get back to the focus rather than saying, got to focus, because then you'll find you won't be able to focus. So this is where the rubber hits the road. No games. You're going to progress here in your building. You want ambitious results, you got to play the game.
I cannot agree with you more. I tried these things, it works.
Well, there we go.
You know what fascinates me though? I would one day really love it when people come live here and they start asking questions. That I would really love to hear.
Absolutely. Well, I see there's an ex-Iraq veteran that's reached out now as well. So he's climbing into the books and the PDFs, should I say, listening to the videos. And so, yeah, it's starting to now get out to a lot of veterans because, you know, this is a platform basically for, you know, people that take an interest and in most cases, those who served.
I think there is a comradeship and I think there's understanding and perhaps a sympathy.
Yes,
in
yes.
those
Yes.
who had the uniform on once.
Yes, yes, yes. And so talking about the 4 floors above it, next week, we will go to the 4th floor, which is the more sales unit. And that's where we focus on lifetime value with your clients so that they're not coming and going. And then also how to orchestrate referrals out of them. And then the following week, we will then move to the next freedom, which is freedom through relationship. And then we move down to freedom through technology. And then the last one is grow, freedom through grow. But obviously, you know, everyone is now familiar with that one already.
Well, we're looking forward to that.
Yes, yes. And I want to also just say to the people out there in conclusion, you know, this year, you know, we will be inviting you in and then we'll spend time like this. And then basically we'll put you into breakout rooms where you'll have like-minded people working on the same freedoms. And then you can share best practices. And someone said to me the other day, why does it work, Kev, when they go into the breakout rooms and they share best practices with one another around the 8 freedoms? For one simple reason, we tell the people up front that when you come, you're going to be doing work. So that means you're going to be sharing best practices about what you've learned about the 8 freedoms. And so therefore, if you do that, you'll have someone sitting on the other side with you in the breakout rooms who will be having the same attitude as you. And that's where the magic happens. People share with one another. And then they can go away realizing, oh, so this is working. It's not just working well for someone that's already been doing it 18 quarters. And when I say 18 quarters, I've been doing it in a sort of organized way. Prior to that, obviously, I've been doing it for a very long time. So there we go, Chris.
Yes. Once again, Kevin, thank you. Thank you for your time. Really appreciate it. Today was a relatively short one. You know, I'm not too healthy at the moment, but even I could follow this in my befuddled state. So we're good.
Yeah.
And I want to say to everybody, let's just get stuck in.
I just want to also say, I'm glad you actually mentioned that where you say, you know, you're not feeding too well, and even that got you to get some value out of it. I want to share something with people that I feel is very, very profound. I met some time ago, a guy who's in business today, and his business is doing exceptionally well. Believe you me, this guy's in the big league, and he's got his wife in the business as well. He is now presently 78 years of age. He's got no kids, so there's no kids in the business with him. He employs about 100 and odd people, and his wife's in the business as well. But his wife is more in the engine room of running the business part, and he's more the entrepreneurial person. And he was interviewed by someone where he goes as a client. And this is like a high-level entrepreneurial organization. And he goes there as a high-level client. His wife goes as well. And they pay 100K each to meet with about 40 others 3 or 4 times a year. Yep, 100%, 100K US dollars each. So him and his wife are forking out 200,000, plus obviously the flights and hotel accommodations. So the guy that owns this organization says, oh, I've got no one else where it's the same family and the same business forking out 200,000. Can you explain to me what makes you decide to come, and how do you keep coming back, and why do you keep coming back? He said, well, what we do on the Sunday before we get on the plane to fly, my wife separately in her study and me in my study, we each go through what we are wanting to get out of these 2 days with you. They're now sharing this with the guy that charges them that. And when they come there, that evening before it actually starts, already his wife and him are socializing with the other 38 delegates, and they know exactly what they've come looking for. And every year they go away saying, yep, got it again this year. And they have a simple rule. Their rule is simple. If they're paying 200,000, they've got to find a 2 million idea. So that's why they go there. Where's the 2 million idea? But you see, their heads are thinking 2 million. They've done sort of preparation. So when they get there, their ears are picking up things and their eyes are seeing things. Versus someone that goes there in a very reactive way, approaches it in a bit of a reactive way, and then bitches a little bit at the end. It's very simple. It's binary. Like in tech, it's a 0 or a 1. You're either in that one camp or you're like the 78-year-old. I know what camp I want to be in. I want to be in his camp because he's proactive. He takes control, and his wife takes control of their destiny. We live in a world today where it's very much me, me, me. And if you get caught up in that trap course, then the area where you got to be responsible starts to diminish.
Then goes your courage.
That's it.
Well, Internet, we're really saying goodbye now to Kevin. He'll be back next week. So will I be. Kevin, thank you once again. I understand the value of what's happening here, and I'm sure that a lot of people will understand as well. Having played these games, which we're talking about, myself a few times now, I urge you, go and try it. Give it a chance. You will see how things become clear in your mind. Then you know what to do and you know where to go. And so until we meet again, God bless.